Chicago Cubs starter. And Ralph, all I keep hearing is that he's in for a regression. But I ask why. I mean, he's got back-to-back 30-plus start seasons. He's still just 27 years old, so he's in his prime. He's got the best offense in baseball behind him. I really don't get the downside to this guy. He's being drafted as though people do believe in him. His ADP is currently starting pitcher 16, according to NFBC data. But yet no one really seems excited by drafting Hendricks. I'm telling you, get excited because this guy is pretty damn good. You know, he's a junky off-speed pitcher. He uses a sinker ball to keep the ball on the ground. He was 21st in the league in that regard last year, 15th in 2015. And he also knows how to get a strikeout, having bumped his swing and strike percentage up from 8 to 10% over the last year. I don't know that his 2.13 ERA is sustainable, but if you do look at his career, expecting him to repeat a sub-3 ERA is certainly within line. He's currently going in the 5th round, and he's the guy I want to start targeting as my first pitcher. I'm trying to get him everywhere I can. What says you, Ralph?
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you on this. It's funny. I think everyone is really focusing on the ERA, and they're focusing on his 250 BABIP, the batting average on balls in play. That's incredibly low. League average is somewhere around 300. So obviously that's not a sustainable number. He also had an 80% left on base, averages somewhere between 70 and 75. So he got a little lucky. It wasn't absurd. But I think there's a couple of reasons that Hendricks had such a low batting average on balls in play and was able to keep runners on base when they did get on against him. And I think the biggest thing is he's number one in soft contact in the major leagues. He had a 25% soft contact rate. No, I think the next closest was maybe 2 or 3%. So it was a significant margin that he gets soft contact in comparison to other pitchers. The other thing that I love about him is he's number one in first strike rate. 68.6% of the time, he gets the first strike against any batter he faces. So almost 70% of the time, he's getting ahead in counts. We know that when a pitcher gets ahead in counts, they're able to control the at-bat against even the best batters. You mentioned the offense. He's got that going for him. I think 16 wins is absolutely repeatable. He might even be able to win 20 with the kind of stuff he has, the team he has behind him. There aren't a whole lot of reasons to dislike Hendricks. I really think everyone's focusing way too much on the batting average and balls in play, not looking at the fact that this guy has a skill set that drives that number. I mean, maybe it'll be 275 next year, 280. If it went up to 300, even if he was a little unlucky, I think we're looking at a guy at minimum that has a mid-3s ERA, a whip under 1.10, and a K rate somewhere in the 8s. So he's improved every year. He's young. As you said, he's a horse. He pitches a lot of innings. So if you're in points leagues where innings pitched are a category, or get your points, he certainly has even more value there. I like Hendricks a lot. I think he's being undersold a little bit because, like I said, I think people are focusing on the BABIP and the left on base percentage.
Yeah, speaking of the whip, he had a whip under 1, and of the pitchers with the whip under 1 with 190 or more innings thrown, only he and Max Scherzer can lay claim to that. When we think of Max Scherzer, we think sexy starting pitcher. Hendricks should be considered that way as well, but nobody seems to want to vault him into that territory. I'm looking at a repeat of 2016 as his baseline where he had the 16 wins, as you mentioned, but I think he's got a serious chance to crack 20 for the first time. And the funny thing to me, and I think some of the reason there's the kind of negative, I don't want to say negative, but kind of the not as rosy outlook for Hendricks is because they already have John Lester and they already have Jake Arrieta on that Cubs rotation. And you look at both of those guys as probably the 1 and 2, with Hendricks being the 3. So it's kind of like in football drafting, 2 wide receivers from the same team. It's like you feel like, well, they all can't be 20-game winners. But the thing is, they can. They have that kind of team. We kind of saw something similar to this with the Mets of the 80s with their stellar rotation where they had multiple 20-game winners. So if you're worried that there's not enough room, or a big enough piece of the pie for Hendricks, I think you're drastically overthinking it. And Hendricks is somebody that you should definitely be excited about having on your team. So again, with his ADP being currently 16th pitcher, not to say people aren't buying into it. It just doesn't seem to be that he gets the fanfare that, somebody of his ilk should be, carrying.
Andy, I was gonna say, I got a question for you. If you're drafting your team, whether it's redraft or with not dynasty, would you rather have Arrieta, Lester, or Hendricks?
And that's a great question. And, I think Arrieta's the one that jumps out with Lester aging a little. But, I'm not going to be a chooser if I'm begging for any of those three arms. I'd be happy with any three of them. I'd take them all. If I had to rank them, like I said, I'd probably rank them Arrieta, Hendricks, Lester. As crazy as that sounds, I factor age, especially into Dynasty, and Lester's just the oldest of the trio. So that will be my determining factor.
Agree on Lester. I think I'd take
You're not
Hendricks
agreeing.
over Arrieta. I think I would take Hendricks over Arrieta. Arrieta's strike, K/9 was down. They can get a lot. I think Hendricks is better value. I just do. I wouldn't touch Arrieta.
Well, there you go. I mean, you just agreed with me and magnified it even more. So get excited about Kyle Hendricks.